Curry is the reason why I'm terrified of clowns.
Steve's particular spin was to take something that's much loved and familiar and ratcheted it up as far as it could possibly go.
Wow. Tim could act through a manhole cover because he has that kind of charisma and presence.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to my review for this brand new Blu-ray that has just been released, and it is Pennywise, the story of it, the making of a monster. It's just newly been released in the UK this past week. I've really been quite looking forward to this. It's a documentary essentially about the making of the 1990 miniseries It. It runs for about 125 minutes, and there's 48 minutes of special features as well. So what we get here is, I'll show you this as well, because that's what it looks like inside there. You've got your Blu-ray, and I love this design here. But as a little bonus, you see there in that slip, and I don't think all of them you get this. I think it depends on how early you order them, because I don't think you've all got this inside it. But mine did. It's got a nice cracking poster. I think that's a really, really cool design. So you get that with it as well as this great, great documentary. Now, I watched it last night, checked out the extras as well. And essentially, as I've mentioned, this is a documentary about the making of the 1990 miniseries. It's directed by John Campopiano and Chris Griffiths, and I hope I pronounced that right, the first one. And it's got appearances by Tim Curry, the director Tommy Lee Wallace, who directed the miniseries, Seth Green, Richard Thomas, Dennis Christopher, Richard Masur, Tim Reed, Emily Perkins, Brandon Crane. I mean, it's literally got practically everybody you could imagine who is still alive, who took part in the miniseries in front of and behind the camera. And it's a really quite excellent documentary. I'm not going to lie, I was quite impressed by this. It goes right through the inception of how it came to the screen. Talks a little bit about Stephen King. It's got some archive footage of Stephen King talking about how he came up with the idea of the book itself. Loads of interviews with the cast and crew. I mean, literally anyone you could think of, that they've interviewed them really for this. Really fantastic. It does talk a lot about the genius that is Stephen King, which is really good. The only thing that's really missing here is an interview, a fresh interview with Stephen King for this documentary, which isn't on here, which I think would have been nice if they could have maybe had a little chat with him about it. It talks about how clowns are scary, the connection to John Wayne Gacy, and I didn't know this. Apparently, when John Wayne Gacy was arrested, they found, because he was an artist as well or something like that, they found a picture that he'd drawn of Pennywise the clown. I mean, that's pretty freaky. So it talks a lot about clowns, the impact of clowns on, pop culture and all this kind of stuff, and how this miniseries kind of really moved that forward, sort of thing, in regards to the real fear factor in regards to clowns and the book and things like that. Talks about how it was filmed in Vancouver, which was quite unusual in those days. It was one of the first to do it. Talks about how the cast bonded, both the kids and the adults, and how the kids worked with the adults, to kind of come up with little quirks between both the characters, sort of thing, which is really cool. And you get loads of stories from the cast and crew about things that happened, pranks they got up to, all this kind of stuff. It's really, really good in-depth stuff. And they even, which I thought was really good, most people that watch this miniseries, usually the biggest complaint that people come up with is the ending, that spider effect. And they actually hit that head on here in this documentary. The director and many of the others talk about the disappointment, how, they hope they could have done something different, but it was made for TV. They didn't have the budget for it. They didn't have the time to do anything differently. So, yeah, there is some regret there, because that is the only main criticism that people have got with the miniseries, is that ending with the poor effect with the spider. and I thought it was really nice that they actually addressed that. So I think what this documentary does is it cements the legacy of this miniseries, because since the It and It Chapter 2 came out, I think the first It was 2017 and Chapter 2 2019, something like that. A lot of people now kind of look at those as the definitive It versions, and I can completely understand that. I absolutely love those versions too, It 1, It and It Chapter 2. I think they're brilliantly done, and I'm actually rewatching them at the minute. But there's something about this miniseries, the fact that it pushed the envelope at the time, because nothing really like it had ever been on TV before at that time, and it really did push the envelope. In actual fact, initially when it was presented to the network, they declined it. They said they had to make loads of cuts, and they refused, and they had a bit of a battle to fight to get it on screen, because they just thought it was going to be too intense and too scary and all this kind of stuff. And when we watch it now, we actually think it's quite tame in comparison to a lot of things that we see. But I remember watching this when it first came out and finding it really, really effective. I still do think it's effective today. It talks about the genius that is Tim Curry, and it's brilliant to have Tim Curry speaking on this documentary, and his affection for the character and the part and all this kind of stuff. And I just think this Blu-ray is absolutely worth picking up, guys. I think I paid $13.99 for this in the UK. If you're a big fan of the character Pennywise, this miniseries, or It, the book, or the franchise, whatever you want to call it, definitely worth picking up, especially if you like documentaries. I thought it was really quite excellent. So, yeah, don't forget to check it out, guys. So I hope you enjoy this review. I will, of course, be back with loads more content on the channel very, very soon.